As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. I grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This week we'll be going over some WoW news, the weekly news. This is just mainly stuff that is on the 10.0.7. Yeah. 10.0.7 PTR, a lot of class changes for the most part, but also one or two wacky things that have happened since the Traveler's Trader, I forget what it's called, Tender, the Traveler's Cart, whatever it is, has been implemented in World of Warcraft since the 1st of Feb. But we always have the weekly news, so we have the world boss for this week, which is how do I spell this? Liskanoth, I'm going to go with. This is the world boss that is in the bottom right of Thaldraszus. It is a sort of frosty sort of world boss. It is in the Primalist future. So don't go there thinking, oh, the world boss isn't here. No, it is. You have to go into the portal that takes you into the Primalist future. And that is where the world boss is located. The bonus event for this week is Battlegrounds, so you get more honour for participating in Battlegrounds, as well as getting a quest to complete and win for Battlegrounds, and that gives you a little bit of conquest to go with it. The brawl for this week is Temple of Hot Mogu. Very simple brawl, everything is just ramped up, your movement speed, your haste especially, and you can throw the orbs to other players. So everything is very fast paced, and this game mode is very quick and ends very quickly, so it's a good way to get a simple win and a quest done for those who are wanting to gear some ults for PvP. Pain Suppression is the spell that we're going to be looking at the history of it this week. It was added back in patch 2.0 all the way back in 2007. It had a few changes all throughout Burning Crusade. Now reduces the damage taken by 65% and increases the resistance to dispel mechanics by 65% for the duration. This talent will now reduce the chance of any buff on the priest to be dispelled, rather than reduce the chance of dispelling buffs cast while it is active. And finally, in Burning Crusade, is now usable on friendly targets, instantly reducing the target's threat by 5%, reduces the damage taken by 40%, and its cooldown has been reduced to 2 minutes. So having pain suppression on 2 minutes is a really, really juicy cooldown, essentially. It got a couple changes in Wrath of the Lich King. Its cooldown was increased to 3 minutes, up from 2 minutes, and it no longer can be cast while under the effects of Incapacitate or Cyclone. So only these, everything else that you can cast it in, I believe that you can still cast it in a Fear in Wrath of the Lich King. I might be mistaken in that, but it is the same. You can still use it in stuns for sure. In Cataclysm, there was only two very simple changes. It was moved to tier 5. This is when the talent trees went to the, you get one talent per 15 levels kind of thing. So this was on the 5th tier, the very last tier, I believe. And it is no longer dispellable. You could dispel Pain Suppression. It was really rough if you got lucky and you managed to get it like first time. Glyph of Desperation has been removed. Pain Sup can now always be cast while stunned. Makes sense. It makes the most use out of it. And this is a thing that has stuck with Pain Suppression throughout since Mr. Pandaria. It had one change in Warlord of Draenor, no longer reduced the target's threat by 5%, mainly because it didn't really matter. It really didn't matter. By the time that we got to sort of Cataclysm, even Wrath of the Lich King, threat wasn't necessarily an issue. Only if someone is really pumping damage, then you might have a bit of an issue, but yeah, it makes no sense to have it. And in Legion, you had, oh my god, really? In Legion, it had a single change to it. Cooldown increased from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. That's a really rough change for Disc Priests. 4 minutes on their best cooldown, and yet, that's really rough. I believe that they have changed this since. So since Legion, it has gone back down to 3 minutes, and it also has 2 charges now. if you've taken a specific talent in your priest tree or in your discipline tree, which also reduces the cooldown of it whenever a shield is fully depleted. So, there's been a lot of changes to Paint Up, but it still remains one of the most iconic spells in Warcraft history. Certainly for the Disc Priests out there, it remains one of the most iconic spells in Warcraft's history. The mythic affixes for this week are Spiteful, Quaking, Tyrannical, and Thundering. Spiteful, whenever you kill a mob, a shade will appear from it. Just simply kite them. They will fixate on players. You do not want to get hit by these. They hurt. Quaking, it's simple. Spread out and do not be casting when this quaking is about to expire, as it will interrupt your cast. Tyrannical, the bosses and the mobs that they spawn have a bit more health and do more damage. So make sure you're taking a boss talent build into the dungeons so that you can burn down the bosses a bit quicker. And we have Thunder in the seasonal affix. Every sort of 30 seconds or so, everyone will be targeted by a thundering debuff. You simply have this debuff for about 15 seconds and then you want to cleanse it. You want to cleanse it because it will stun you and it will do a bit of damage to you if you do not. And you do not want to get stunned. It is a nasty stun, I will say that. So what's on the 10.7 PTR? God, can't wait for that. 10.0.7 PTR. They released a lot of these, or the developer notes, a couple days ago. And this was amazing considering 10.0.5 came out a week ago. Yeah, I think it's been about a week now. So, having these go up so quickly is absolutely amazing. Firstly, I want to talk about a few of the smaller things that they've added since the patch. So now you can send your Primal Chaos over to ults. This is good for just people wanting to gear ults through the Primal Chaos, through doing crafting stuff. You need them for crafting orders, etc. You simply go up to a vendor and you purchase a bind on account sort of thing. It costs about 80 Primal Chaos and you get 60 back, but essentially it's not too bad. If you've been playing on your main for a while, you should have a lot of these, and it's really not going to be that detrimental to lose 20 each time you send it over. The trading post, that was released a little bit later on in the week. That was released on the 1st, and essentially I went to check it out the night that it came out, or the night after. It's there, but no one could access the actual chest to get their trader's tender, so you can get your currency. And I went to bed and then woke up the next day and went on Battle.net, and it said trader's post currently disabled. Which I absolutely found hilarious, but it's back up and running now. You can get your tender, you can do all of the sort of small activities related to it. Go get your mounts, your transmogs from it, absolutely everything. It's there for a month, and then the stock that they have essentially rotates, but you can freeze an item to keep it there for next month, which is something that you might want to do if, say, you just can't be bothered to do any more activities in the traders post, essentially. But let us move on to 10.0.7. So a lot of this is obviously going to be due to class changes, and it's going to be massive in terms of PvE, PvP, the enjoyment of the class, stuff like that. But we are going to return to Forbidden Reach. In a future PTR build, players return to the Forbidden Reach to learn more of the story of the Drakthir Evoker awakening now, and the defeat of Razageth has been secured. This zone includes new content for max level players, delving into the troubles left behind by the meddling of the Primalists and the chaos they've left behind amongst the elements. Players will discover hidden treasure rooms with the Dragonscale expedition, encounter new bosses and objectives, more storms, new loot to add to their arsenal, and more. This is really good. Obviously, they're constantly adding more and more content each patch. This one was the storms, and they're just going to, it looks like, add on to them because they seem all right PvE-wise. They seem like a lot of fun, but it's not for me. I'm very much a PvP player, so yeah, it's one of them things. But at least they're throwing out new content. The monk class expands to new races. Lightforged Draenei, Worgen, Goblin races have learned how to harness their chi and can become monks. Lightforged Draenei and Worgen monk NPCs have made their homes in Stormwind. Goblin monk NPCs can be found in Kazan, Bilgewater Cartel, and a Goblin monk NPC now sells sage advice in Orgrimmar. That's very good. So they're your trainers, essentially. Now, we're getting on to the classes. There is a lot of changing. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is a lot of lines here. But essentially, you're looking at the main ones being paladin and probably stuff to do with like shaman. Quite a lot on shaman. But yeah, we'll kind of speed run them. DKs are getting a lot of changes as well. So Epidemic has swapped places with Unholy Blight in the talent tree. Pestilence has been updated to better reflect the functionality of the tooltip. Rotten Touch duration increased to 10 seconds, was 6 seconds. Runic Mastery now also increases Runic's corruption rune regeneration rate by an additional 10 to 20%. Commander of the Dead has been updated to always buff your nearby Gargoyle or Dark Arbiter if you have the glyph, and Army of the Dead ghouls for 30 seconds after using Dark Transformation. Just a few sort of like buffs, essentially, a few buffs to their damage. Or probably, I like what they're kind of doing in a lot of the patches. They're tinkering with a lot of the talents. A lot of the talents that are considered dead talents, they can really ramp them up and make them actually kind of useful. So if you look at priests at the moment, they had a talent called Shadow Covenant, which wasn't necessarily going to be something that you would take in the patch previous, but they buffed it quite a substantial amount, and now it is kind of a must pick for them, which is kind of good to see. You want to see priests being able to utilize these other sort of specializations, these spells in there, like talent trees. You want people to play around with it to figure out the best build for them. You want every talent to be on a level playing field rather than just, oh yeah, this is the best talent tree. You do not change anything. You maybe change one talent point out of the 25 you have, but no, it is everything else is set in stone. So as long as they keep trying to move everything about and to buff things, nerf things, it's all very good because it keeps the game fresh. I've said this many times. For Druid, they've done quite a few. So new talent, Tranquil Mind, increases Omen and Clarity's chance to activate clear casting. Very simple. Deep Focus. When Moonfire, Rake, Rip, Rejuve are active on a single target, their effects are increased by 40%. This is the legendary from Shadowlands. This is the one that I'm pretty sure all Druids kept, but I still think Druids are going for that sort of cleave AoE build. You want people stacking. You don't necessarily want just a single target build, essentially. Maybe if you're going against double caster, because it'll be rare that they stack. So this might be a different type of build option. We Embrace the Dream now also triggers the talents with the regrowth heal over time effect. That's not bad, but at the same time, it's not great. The Embrace of the Dream, I believe, is where you have an increased movement speed after you cast regrowth, so it's kind of very... It doesn't help it. It's a dead talent, like I said. They would need to buff this a lot in order to, basically be useful. Nothing really too crazy with the Druid tree. It's just a lot of stuff getting moved about, essentially, and swapping places. With the Evoker, the main thing is the Devastation heal. Verdant Embrace healing increased by 35% for Devastation. It's a nice little buff. Because they only have their Obsidian Scales renewing Blaze and their heal, but after that you're kind of buggered. So the heal is nice, consistent. For Monk, actually, Mistweaver got one change, or a couple actually, and they're very nice changes. Thunder Focus Tea now causes Enveloping Mist to become instant cast, in addition to its current effect. This is really good. You've just got to get lucky to proc the Enveloping Mist from your Thunder Focus Tea. So, Paladin. Now, Paladin's a big one. Protection, you just have a couple, changes to talent. So Faith in the Light block chance increased to 15/30%. It was 5 to 10. Focused Enmity has been redesigned. When Avenger Shield strikes a single target, it deals additional holy damage. And corrected a tooltip error with Light of the Titans heal over time effect. Very simple. Retribution. A major rework to Ret Paladins is underway, and more changes will be coming in future PTR builds. For details on the changes, visit the forum post at Retribution Paladin Design in 10.0.7. So they're overhauling a lot of the things. Now, what this blue post essentially says is it breaks it down into 5 different things. It breaks it down into button bloat, stacking modifiers, survivability, maneuverability, and utility. And this is what they had to say on all of them. Retribution Paladins currently have a fairly large number of abilities, and some of these feel unnecessary and inefficient. I cannot read to save my life today. We're working to tone this down and have a more focused set of abilities and cooldowns. Very simple. There is a lot of button bloating on a lot of characters. If you look at Fury Warrior, I'm pretty sure they have a total of, before this talent tree anyway, in Shadowlands they had a total of 7 spells. Everything else was passive. How crazy is that? Fury Warrior in general, not warrior abilities like Intervene, Stormbolt, stuff like that. Just Fury Warrior abilities. They have 7. Bloodthirst, Rampage, Wrecking Blow they had in Shadowlands. That's it. That's kind of all I remember. That's how crazy it was. Whereas you've got Paladins out here with Blessing of Sank, Freedom, you have Crusader Strike that doesn't really do much. It's just a generator and a filler button if you need. Judgment, Divine Toll, Final Reckoning. You have loads of abilities. And some other classes do need a little bit of a tone down in terms of their ability bloat. Stacking modifiers. There are currently several talents and abilities that provide stacking bonuses, which can make for a confusing and messy playstyle that deals extreme burst damage, but in return leaves your core abilities feeling unsatisfying and undertuned. We intend to significantly change this. We want your core abilities to feel good and powerful when used in all situations. This doesn't mean we're reducing all elements of burst damage, but we do not want to make burst more purposeful and deliberate, while also allowing options that provide sustained damage. This is really good. As a PvP player, the only thing that Paladins have is burst. That comes from Wings proc. That comes from just Wings itself, so Avenging Wrath, into Seraphim, into Divine Toll. It is a lot of buffs that they need to do anything. When they do not have Wings or Seraphim, they hit like a wet noodle, and it's ridiculous. It's like going from 0 to 100 in an instant. There is a shit ton of stacking stuff that they have. They have loads of buffs that if they all proc at the same time, you're dead. If one procs at the wrong time, then they don't get the most use out of it, that kind of thing. So that can be quite annoying. And as a PvP player, I think it's a lot easier to deal with stuff when it's a bit more telltale. That makes sense. So he's popped Wings. We just need to kite. We need to CC, that kind of thing. Survivability. Retribution Paladins currently have one of the highest death rates across all forms of content. I'm looking at you, PvP Paladins that don't press fucking bubble. For a plate-wearing class with hybrid healing, This doesn't feel right. We're looking to strengthen them through a mixture of passive bonus and improvements to active abilities and cooldowns, while keeping the degree of challenge that results from being a melee-based spec. This makes sense. They are one of the most highest death rates because everyone loads into an arena or a battleground or something, and it's just kill paladin, kill paladin. Because they have Shield of Vengeance, which is a small shield. They do have a lot of self-healing, but the thing is, you give up your damage for the self-healing, which Boomkin does. Any hybrid class does do that. Stuff that doesn't do that is like Warriors passively, Warlocks passively. They're the ones that I kind of have a problem with, because they out-heal some of the hybrid healing classes. That's kind of why I have a problem with them, but we won't get into that. And obviously Bubble is like a 5-minute cooldown. You'll only get one of them. And if you're against a priest, it will just get mass dispelled off like immediately. So yeah, you can kind of understand why they have the highest death rates. And it makes sense that they would be a bit more durable if they are sort of going on the RP aspect, a sort of warrior of the light type of thing. You'd think that they have like a bit more of a backing from just the natural elements in the game almost. Maneuverability. We recognise that there is an issue here and we hope to make some improvements. However, we want to set clear expectations. Retribution Paladins should not expect to gain the mobility of rogues. Now, they had a talent called Long Armored the Law or something, and I'm pretty sure it gave them increased movement speed, something like that. But I feel like they would just get a small buff. Whenever they use Judgment, they would get a small speed increase, so 20%, 30%, that kind of thing, to keep up, because Cavalier is very good for disengaging. If you use it to engage, it can be detrimental because you can't necessarily get out. Obviously, you have Freedom to stop any slows, which cannot be purged, I believe, if you take Unbound Freedom or Unbridled, something like that. So I think you just give them something as simple as a small speed boost when they use an ability, like maybe Divine Toll. You bake it into a Divine Toll, or you bake it into, Long Arm of the Law, I think it was called, like an expansion or two ago, probably. But I think that's all they need. That way they have something to disengage with the Cavalier, and they have something to also engage and keep up with their targets. Utility. The changes that Dragonflight brought to Retribution have caused some conflict for players, forcing the Ret Paladin to choose between providing benefits to their group or benefiting themselves. This choice can be interesting, but due to the way that this has historically worked for Paladins, it hasn't felt right in Dragonflight. So we're looking to make changes here that allow you to feel good and improve your own damage while also providing the group benefits that you're used to. We're also looking into additional utility improvements for Paladins during the 10.0.7 test cycle. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback on the points above, as well as anything else about the Retribution that you'd like to share. Thank you. Okay. Utility, Paladins have it all. They've had Blessing of Protection. They've had Blessing of Sanctuary that gets people out of stuns, fears. They've had Blessing of Sacrifice or Sank. No, not Sank. Sack. Blessing of Sack. They've had so many. They are the original utility class, even though a lot of people didn't actually do anything in Classic with their utility. I swear a lot of Paladins did not do anything with their utility in in any content. Like, half of their buttons were not used. It was just press flash a light and buff. That's your job. But like, bloody hell, man. Yeah, sorry about that. Essentially, every class needs its own utility. Now, it depends on how good the utility is. It depends on how much they're going to give or how much they're going to gut. Because obviously, if they take away Blessing of Freedom, then that's really rough. But if they give them Blessing of Sank baseline and that's just like a 20-second cooldown instead, you can get everyone out of like a kidney shot, and then it will be like completely insane. It will be like, oh my god, ret paladins can counter like rogues in PvP, that kind of thing. So it really does depend on what they're going to take away from the ret paladins and what they're going to give them. It's a complete overhaul of the retribution talent tree, which I'm very curious to see. I've heard certain things that there's going to be ret wings where you turn into a ranged DPS, which I'm kind of envious of. That's kind of fucking dope. That is really, really cool. I heard a couple other things, but I can't remember them off the top of my head now that I've spoken about the like ranged wings. Essentially, it'll be really cool to see. And once again, they mixed up the Boomkin talent tree and the Druid talent tree. I'm glad that they're doing it with other classes. I'm really glad to see that they're just going for it rather than take a very hesitant approach to it. Like, what do you guys think? We might change this, but if you guys think that it's fine, then we'll stick. No, we're changing it. We want your feedback on this. Like, we are going to be changing it, but you have to give us your feedback on these talents as and when they go out. Which I think is a really good approach. Just send it and it feels like a completely new class. It feels revitalized. It feels really good to play against for some reason, because it's not just, oh, I randomly got one shot, that kind of thing. It's, okay, he pressed everything, I didn't respect it kind of PvP situation. So the Paladin changes are going to be the biggest thing in the 10.0.7 patch. And I'm once again so glad that they're going over like a load of the like trees, the talent trees early on in an expansion. So back to the patch notes. Mainly, there's only a couple more things. It's stuff to do with dragon riding and sort of cosmetics, and yeah, nothing too crazy. But discover new dragon riding glyphs in the Forbidden Reach to unlock 2 new dragon riding traits. Aerial Halt, which you flat back, reducing forward momentum, and Airborne Recovery. Activating Aerial Halt will affect, while affected by Thrill of the Skies, generates 1 vigor. Very simple. 16 new customization manuscripts have been added, so this is your manuscripts to customize your dragon. You put your dragon riding skills to the test in 6 new races as well. The races were really fun, and honestly, I'd very much recommend them. Dragon riding racing world quests have a new icon. And yeah, very simple, very sort of basic things that they're switching up. Also, they are changing the profession specialization summary screen, basically to make it a lot more easier to understand. It's like, oh, okay, this will help me smelt things like better, or this will help me collect more herbs and more of that specific herb, that kind of thing. It will really give you like a clear layout of what the specialization of this profession does, essentially. But that is it for this week. Thank you all very much for listening. Be sure to check out the Twitch down below, as well as the Patreon and YouTube. It all helps out the channel, and it really shows your support for the podcast. Thank you all very much for listening once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.